So this is for people who might miss. So we'll put it on our
Yes, I have
individual
started the
channels.
recording.
Okay. Uh, Thanks, Niladri. Okay, so as Niladri mentioned earlier, so this is the sixth episode, including the overview, wherein we'll go a deep dive into what Essential Safe is all about. Now that we have covered all the basic fundamentals, the values, the principles, spanning palette, and we are good enough to look at what Essential Safe is all about. Initially, when we thought when we planned this, we thought we might require two sessions to cover Essential Safe, but looks like we'll be able to cover everything in this 1 hour. So though the session is set up for, I think, 1.5 2 hour, we might not require the full uh, uh, time. We might be able to wind up earlier as well, and the same format goes. So I'll take a pause in between. So if there are any questions, so please hold on to your questions uh, so that the flow is maintained. Okay, so this is the overall uh, big picture of what Scaled Agile Framework is. It has got all the configurations, right from Essential Safe to last solution, the portfolio, and the full safe. And this is what is Essential Safe looks like. If we get a thorough understanding of Essential Safe, understanding the other configurations would be just building on top of it. So this is, I would say, the fundamental building block of all the other configurations of Scaled Agile Framework. However, for people who are familiar with Scaled Agile Framework and who have visited this portal, someone who's not talking, if you can go on mute, please. Thank you. Uh, if you have not visited the portal and if you are not a often frequent visitor to this portal, this looks very daunting. In fact, the first time when I saw a few years ago, probably in SAFe 3.0 times, that time itself it was very daunting. Where do I start reading from? How do I navigate this? So it was very confusing for me. So the whole attempt of Niladri, if you can mute people who are not unmuted, please. Okay, thanks. So the attempt today is to simplify the whole Essential Safe. So I have applied the agile concepts here as well. I'll start on a clean slate. So I'll give probably a second or two so that you can memorize this picture, and we incrementally build this picture in the next 1 hour. So that is what I'll try to do. In the due course of time, you'll be able to appreciate all the aspects of Essential Safe. So please remember this picture, and we'll be able to draw this incrementally. Uh, so as I mentioned, I'll start with the clean slate. So let's start with the clean slate. The first is the foundation. The bottom part is the foundation. So in the foundation, what we have seen, what we have is the core values. So core values we covered in a lot of detail in the third session of our series. I gave an acronym. I'm just giving some connections to what all we discussed there. I gave an acronym as BATP, basically built-in quality, alignment, transparency, program execution. In built-in quality, we spoke about the 5 dimensions of the built-in quality, which is flow, architecture, design architecture and design quality, code quality, system quality, and the release quality. And in terms of alignment, we spoke about how the PA objectives and the iteration goals are used to communicate the expectations and the commitments. We did see about the cadence and synchronizations are applied so that everything is in alignment. And we even saw how the strategy and the investment decisions at the portfolio level is linked and how it flows into the vision, roadmap, and the backlogs of all levels of SAFe. That is what we saw in alignment. Then on the transparency part of it, we spoke about the agile release trains having visibility into all the team backlogs, or as well as the program backlogs. The teams in the programs committing on the short term and having the visibility or the commitments are visible and they are routinely met. The inspect and adapt occurs with all the relevant stakeholders, and the executives, the lean portfolio management, and the stakeholders can see all the portfolio backlog, portfolio Kanban, and the program backlogs. That is all about the transparency we saw. And as program execution, agile release train is the fundamental building block wherein the value is delivered continuously. And so that is what we saw in the programmation. So that was all covered as we covered it in detail in the third episode, where we covered about the core values. Then comes the lean agile mindset. So once again, here it is about the safe house of lean, where we saw that the goal is at the top or the value is at the top, and the pillars: respect for people and culture, flow, innovation, relentless improvement, and the foundation being the lean agile leadership. And we spoke about fixed and the growth mindset. So we spoke about all of that when we had covered lean agile mindset in our previous episodes. Then we have the safe principles. As I mentioned earlier, we had two detailed sessions on what are the 10 principles, right from take an economic view, the first one till the last one is the organize around value. We had two detailed sessions, and people who have missed it can look up on my YouTube channel or on Niladri's. You can find them. Now comes the one of the core competencies. We have 7 core competencies. We covered this lean agile leadership as a core competency in a great detail in our second episode, wherein we speak about leading by example, the mindset and the principles, and the leaders leading the change. We spoke about all of that in a great detail. Next is in the foundation part is the implementation roadmap. This gives a blueprint of how to implement SAFe in any organization. However, we have a separate module on this, separate episode on it. So we'll look at it in great detail when we arrive at that. Finally, at the foundation, we have SPCs like Niladri, we are all SPCs, and we help implement SAFe, and we are authorized to teach the various aspects, be it leading SAFe, SAFe for teams, or the various programs of SAFe. So this forms the foundation. Now, in the earlier version, the which is the not the this is 5.1, what we are talking today. In the earlier version till about 4.6, we had an demarcation of team and program. So for the time being, let's have an imaginary line, a very light shaded line. So it's for ease of understanding. It is not there in the actual 5.0 onwards, but I would prefer to have it here so that it enables the understanding. So let's, it was there in 4.6 and before 4.6. Now, on the left side, we do have the standard agile team. We all know what is an agile team. It's a cross-functional team, and they have a scrum master. We know the roles and responsibilities of a scrum master and a product owner. So that is a standard agile team. I presume we all know what this is, what the role of a scrum master, product owner, and the agile team is all about. And the new 2020 Scrum Guide calls them as a Scrum team. The entire developers, product owners, and the Scrum Masters all put together call as a Scrum team. So we have the agile teams picture out here. For any successful mm, uh, agile and the safe adoption, it just not affects only the engineering. When I say engineering, the development, but it touches all other aspects of the organization. It could be marketing, operations, support, finance, legal, compliance. It can be anything. So uh, the point that I'm trying to make here is, if one part accelerates, it reveals the bottlenecks in the others. So if at all the technology accelerates and we start developing at a higher speed from an engineering point of view, and if we are not able to go to the market, or the marketing is not ready, or the sales is not ready, it reveals all those bottlenecks. So the business agility requires everyone to learn how to perform their work better by applying this lean and agile principles. So optimizing the flow, working with small batches, built-in quality. So whichever is applicable in their context, all the parts of their organization have to fit into this lean and agile mindset. So in this topic, it talks about the business domain, wherein the if you go into the articles or there at the safe website, they talk about agile marketing, agile contracting, and agile people operations. While on the technology side, it could be about agile software engineering and applying safe to hardware also. So it talks about all of that. So this is this part of the business and the technology part of it. Now you have teams. This is the normal Scrum, XP, and the Kanban teams that we are all familiar with. Uh, we use Scrum as a framework and XP practices. That's why in Scaled Agile framework, it is known as Scrum XP. And you can have a Kanban team as well. There could be a couple of teams which work in Scrum and couple of teams could work in Kanban. However, the Kanban teams also need to adhere to the cadence of the PI. It could be 2 week sprint or 3 week sprints, whatever it is. Though Kanban per se doesn't, as a standalone, is iteration less, but in the safe context, they also need to follow the cadence, and that is what is the principle talks about, applying cadence and synchronization. So the Kanban teams also need to adhere to that particular cadence. And as we know, each of these agile teams is anywhere between 5 to 11 members, and the new Scrum guide says 10 members. But it is a sweet spot that we will have to find. So the recommendation is not to have more than 10 to 11 members. So that is the agile team's constitution all about. Now, this is a value stream. So here it is about development value stream. So value stream represents the definition of value stream is it's a series of steps that the organization uses to implement any solution, and it provides a flow of value to a customer. A safe portfolio might contain one or more value streams, and each of these value streams are built, and they're dedicated to support a set of solutions. The solution can be a product or a service or a system delivered to the customer. It could be whatever, and it could be internal or external to the enterprise. So let's understand value stream as a series of steps that need to be undertaken to deliver a solution. So in simple terms, so you have a value stream out here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, each of these value streams cater to a particular solution. So as I mentioned earlier, it could be a product, it could be a service, it could be some system delivered to a customer. It could be, so the outcome or the output of the value stream is a particular solution. And this solution works in a solution context. So when I say solution context, it identifies the critical aspects of the operational environment of the solution, and it might provide an essential understanding of the requirements, the usage, the installation, the support the solution requires, so on and so forth. So the context in which the solution operates influences the opportunities and the constraints of releasing on demand. So when we come to release on demand, we'll connect that thread. So the solution context has got a bearing on the opportunities and the constraints to release on demand. So just take it this way, every solution operates in a solution context. Next, now this value stream is supported or is built by an agile release train. Agile release train is nothing but a long-lived team of agile teams. So it could be anywhere between 5 to 10 or 15 teams. So it is a team of agile teams which work together, and they have all the stakeholders involved. They incrementally develop, deliver, and wherever applicable, you might even operate one of the solution that the value stream produces. So a value stream is delivered by an agile release train. Agile release train is nothing but a, team of agile teams. And these agile release trains, typically the number is anywhere between 50 to 125 member. So this is known as a Dunberg's number. The concept here is we as human beings cannot have fruitful contact or fruitful conversations beyond a certain limit, which is the number which is 125 members. So yes, it is not written in stone. It could be 125 or 150, or it could be 100. So the number hovers around that. So anywhere between 10 to 15 or 5 to 12, 15 teams put together forms an agile release train. They plan, commit, develop, and deploy together. So this is the agile release train is organized around the development value stream. That's what I told. The gray arrows behind it is the development value stream, and there are certain principles on which the agile release train operates on. The schedule is fixed. So we have a programming quint. The schedule is fixed, and they operate together, and they have an increment after every 2 weeks, and the same cadence is applied across all the teams which are part of a particular agile release train. And the train has its own velocity. So like the team, each team has its own velocity. The train will also have its own velocity. For example, if the agile release train has been all the teams put together is delivering, for discussion purpose, 500 story points pi on pi. So that is the velocity of the agile release train. So it could be when you normalize, it could turn out to be, if there are 10 member, if there are 10 teams in this agile team, the normalized one could be 50 story points per team. So the agile release train has its own velocity, and each one of the agile teams inside the agile release train, they they live by the agile manifesto. They could apply scrum or kanban, as I mentioned earlier. It could be a kanban team, it could be a scrum team, they could be having xp practices, and as built-in quality is part of the game. And they are dedicated people. It is not that uh, someone who's joined, if you can go on mute please. Thanks. So they are dedicated people. They could be belonging to their own individual functional organization structure, but they are dedicated to this particular agile release train. That is a fundamental difference. The way we covered this in a detail in the dual operating system, wherein we organize the people around the value, and the hierarchical structure of the organization is still intact. So they could be belonging to different functions, different hierarchy, but they are dedicated to this particular agile release train. And all the members of this agile release train participate in the PI planning, the face-to-face PI planning, and they develop on cadence and release on demand. So we'll see what is develop on cadence and release on demand in a while from now. So this is all about the agile release train. Now we have a program backlog. Program backlog is a holding area for all the features that this particular agile release train intends to deliver. Um, mm, uh, it also contains something known as enabler features. So we'll see what an enabler feature is in a while from now. And these enabler features are help to build the architectural runway, which also we'll see in a while from now. So basically, you have a backlog at the program at this level. Uh, in 4.6, there was a clear distinction that is a team level, this is a program level. The reason why they took it off is that gave a feeling that it is on a waterfallish program management and the project management way of working. That is the reason they have removed the word program and the team. So it is just a plain essential uh, configuration over here. In fact, in the previous versions also, they used to call it as a program increment. Now you just see it as a PI planning. So the intention is it should they wanted to go shift away from the feeling that it is more of a waterfallish program and the project management. But nevertheless, this is still called as a program backlog. As I mentioned, all the it is a holding area for all the features and enablers at which caters to the all the teams. Now, the features from the program backlog are pulled into the individual team backlog. As I mentioned earlier, there could be anywhere between 5 to 10, 15 teams part of the agile release train. The features are broken down and pulled into the individual team backlogs of the individual agile teams. And these features are prioritized using a technique known as WSJF, which is weighted shortest job first. There's a separate episode. The next episode would be on what is WSJF, how do you calculate, and what is the all the details that go into calculation of WSJF. So we'll cover it in that episode. So at this point of time, it is good enough if we understand that the program backlog is prioritized at the using a technique known as WSJF. Now, let us look at some roles at this level. You have the business owners, the system architects, the product management, and the release train engineer. Business owners, system architects, product management, and the release train engineers. Business owners are just a group of stakeholders who are primarily responsible for the governance, compliance, the return of investment for the solution developed by this particular agile release train. And they are the key stakeholders who must evaluate the fitness for use and the of the solution and must actively participate in the key events of the agile release train. Predominantly, they actively participate during the PA planning and the inspect and adapt. So they are and the system demos. So they are the people who are responsible for the ROI of the agile release train. Like the way we have the team, the development team at the Scrum team level, you have the system and the architecture team at the program level. That is a one-on-one mapping that you can do. Now, what is the responsibility of the system architects or the system engineers? They participate in the PA planning, the pre and the post PA planning. They participate as part of the system demo. They are part of the inspect and adapt events. We'll see what these mean in the due course of time. And they even participate in the definition and the high level design of the solution. They enable the continuous delivery pipeline through having some design guidelines. They define the sum systems and the interfaces, allocate responsibilities to the subsystems. They work with the customers, the stakeholders, and suppliers to establish a high-level solution intent. They participate in establishing the critical non-functional requirements. Uh, these are all the responsibilities of the system architect and or the system engineers. They even plan and develop the architectural runway. So they support the architectural runways built to support the new business features and capabilities. Uh, if someone can go on mute, please. Okay, thank you. So these are all the responsibilities of the system architect or the system engineers. Next, like the way we have a product owner at the team level, you have a role known as a product management at the program level. Now, what does the product management do? The product management is responsible for defining and supporting uh, 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 building of the desirable products that the customer needs. Uh, the primary responsibilities of the product management are from the meeting the business goals. The products and the solutions must meet the economic business values established at the portfolio and the program level. They collaborate with the agile release train and the solution trains to build the required functionality. They even collaborate with the IT, the infrastructure, the IT team to ensure the solutions are deployed. It could be the internal customers or could be the external customers. They even ensure that the offerings that the train has is supported and enhanced to create a continuous flow of value. So this is the role of the product management. And like the product owner owns the team backlog, the product management owns the program backlog. And they even own the vision, the solution, the product vision, and the roadmap. So the product management is part of, it owns the program backlog. They have got the visibility of the product vision, and they own the product roadmap also. Like the way we have a scrum master at the team level, you have a role known as a release train engineer at that level, at the program level. Now, what you can probably call the release train engineer as a master scrum master, for want of a better word. I call it as a master scrum master. So you go, he or she is the release train engineer. The RT is responsible for establishing and communicating the annual calendars of the iterations, the PI planning, all the taking care of all the logistics. The RT assists in tracking the execution of features, the capabilities, features and the capabilities of the agile release train. The RT facilitates the art sync. Art sync, there are two parts. One is the PO sync and is the Scrum of Scrum. So the RT facilitates the art sync. The RT also coaches the leaders, the teams, the Scrum masters in all the lean and agile practices and mindsets. And if there are any like the way the scrum master handles all the impediments at the team level, the RT tracks and manages all the impediments at the program level, at the art level. Predominantly whatever the scrum master is doing at the team level, the RT is doing at the release train level. So you can take it that way. And yes, the RT also facilitates the PA planning, ensures that the PA planning readiness activities happens in time. Uh, the RT will have a understanding of how do we, or the lean budgets, and ensure that the guardrails are, the budget is within the guardrails that is defined. So all of that. So that is what is the uh, uh, role of an RT in a nutshell. I've spoken for quite some time. I'll take a pause for any question before I continue. Any questions? Okay, none, I guess. Niladri, anything on the chat? Any questions?
Nothing on the chat, and we have kind of 15 participants in YouTube, but I don't see any questions came up from there as well.
Okay.
One question, Mahendra, one question, please.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Seems very good presentation, Mahendra. Excellent. Very nice. My question is like, when we are forming a team with a team like 100 people or so, do we have to inform the Scale Agile and take permission to start with? Or we can just go ahead and do without any financial terms?
No. So see, Scaled Agile, Niladri, you might want to add. So this is an open book. So anyone can implement SAFe. But the challenge here is, how do we go about doing it? Where do we start from? That is where we as SPCs can help in launching the art. To answer to your nutshell, there's no licensing fee that you have to pay the Scaled Agile organization,
Community or
community or organization to implement SAFe. This is open book. This is open knowledge. Yeah.
So
Niladri, you
it's
might want to add.
free to use framework. Anyone can use it. But the challenges comes up is it's not just one team where you can just give it a try and execute it. You may need to organize properly. And if you don't understand how to organize, that's where some people goes for an SPCs or some training who can structure it properly. But if you really want to try without paying anyone, you are free to do that. If you understand all that, and their website having that's oceans of informations they have. Whatever you wants to learn, you can just read through. They have lots of videos, and you will be able to learn a sufficient amount of with sufficient amount of knowledge to start implementing. But to mature it up, you may need expertise to come in.
Sure. Thanks, Mahendra. Yeah.
And that is what this is in the implementation roadmap. So when we cover there are 12 steps out there in the implementation roadmap, where we'll cover in bit of a detail as to how do you implement scale agile, how do you scale up agile using the SAFe as a framework. So once we go through that, you'll be able to appreciate the complexities involved, and where you might require help of people who have already done it earlier. So you'll be able to get that.
At what point do we claim the process is operating at the SAFe 5.1 level? Who audits it? When do I claim that?
There's no, see, it is Niladri, you might want to add on to or you might want to defer.
You can continue. Yeah.
See, I would put back the question: when do we say that the team is agile? Let's assume there's a Scrum team, a 10-member Scrum team. When do we say they are completely agile? So the answer as an agile coach is, agile is a journey. It's not a destination. So to answer to your question, there's no audit per se. So I would rather put it this way: once we embark on the journey of scaling, or embark on a journey of just simple Scrum implementation itself, so we'll have to identify some key business goals. And once those business goals are achieved, automatically we would have implemented all of these in place. So there's no audit per se out here, as far as I understand. So and the Scaled Agile framework is flexible. See, there are certain things that you might want to have, certain things that you might not want to have. So that flexibility is there, but the body of knowledge is there for us to use. That's what it is. I know who was it.
Okay.
Niladri, you might want to
Satish.
add.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Satish.
that you added it very clear that it's a journey, it's not something a goal. And going into agile never be should your goal to go into agile. You first, it's a concept of a continuous improvement. So every day you will learn, you will implement, you learn, you implement, and keep on maturing it up. If you think about all the goals and principles to follow the exact values and principle, it will take ages, but you will be going closer, closer and closer, and you will mature it up.
Yes, there are certain maturity models. In fact, SAFe also has got maturity models. So you can use those maturity models and see where do you stand, and you can define a roadmap as to where do you want to go to the next level. So maturity assessment models are there. So you go to the SAFe website, it is free downloadable Excel spreadsheet. They are there. You can take those maturity assessments and you can figure out as to where do you stand. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean that you're completely done. The Agile is never done.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Mahendra, can I
Hi.
ask one question, please?
Yeah, good. Your name,
See,
please, first.
Mahendra, my name is Sri Nagesh.
Yes, Srinagesh. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you're explaining so nicely about Scrum Master, product owner, and team, so can we say like Scrum Master serves both PO and team, and PO serves business and stakeholders, and team serves PO. Well, look at the customer centricity, all are equal, and there is no hierarchy among these three roles, Mahendra.
No. There's no hierarchy per se. So that is why, you see, if you see the Scrum guide, the latest 2020 Scrum guide, in the previous ones, you had known as a development team, and the feeling it gave is you have a development team and you have another team which is the product owner, and the Scrum Master was somewhere in between. So the new Scrum guide is very clear. It says Scrum team. Scrum team consists of three roles, which is the developers. When I say developers, what they mean by developers is engineers. Anyone who's not just coding, anyone who's building the solution, testers, developers, or configuration, anyone who's building that product. Developers, Scrum Master, and product owner. So there's no hierarchy out here, and that constitutes the Scrum team. And in the new Scrum guide, the specific mention is there. If the product owner and the Scrum Master are participating like developers, they are also active participants like as any other developer. So to answer to your question, there's no hierarchical structure in the Scrum team, Sri Nagesh.
Thanks, Mahendra.
Hi, this is Suresh from Chennai. I just have a doubt on PA session. Can I ask?
You hold on to it, Suresh, because we have got a full-fledged episode on PA planning. So we will not. Of course I'll touch upon PA planning now in the subsequent in few minutes from now. However, we got a
Okay.
full-fledged episode on PA.
Yeah, you
So
can ask the question. If it's a quick one, we'll able to
yeah,
answer. If
Yes,
it,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, see, as per my understanding, guys, since the release slot is defined for all the teams, so say for example, for every quarter there will be a PA plan. We will be taking all the teams will be taking the user stories into their sprint backlog, and they'll be working towards the end of the quarter. So maybe like every quarter there will be a PA planning. So teams will discuss about it, and they will take the backlog items. Is it the way the teams will work, or just a different thought?
yeah. It is coming. So hold on to it. So it is coming. I'll explain it.
Okay, sure. Thank you so
It is
much.
coming. Any other questions?
Let me quickly check in YouTube also. You people who are watching, you can ask questions if anyone have. I can see there are a few people still watching YouTube, but all right. So if any comments come up, we'll have a logical
Yeah.
break in between. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. So what I was explaining is the responsibilities of the release train engineer, and this is what I think Suresh you had had. So you have something known as a PA planning. The RT facilitates the PA planning event. like as I mentioned earlier, we have a separate episode on PA planning and execution. So we'll have more details on what goes into a PA planning, what is the preparation, what are the 2-day event of a PA planning. There's quite a bit of detail out there, which we'll cover in that episode. And the RT summarizes the all the each one of the Scrum team, each one of the Agile teams, be it as a Scrum team or the Kanban teams, they have their individual PA objectives. What does a PA stands for? Program increment, which is a quarterly release. You can term it to be a quarter, anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks. So for ease of understanding, we'll call it as a quarterly release. Every PA is 1 quarter for ease of understanding. So every team will have its own PA objectives. The RT will summarize at the program level. What is the program level objectives and publish and create visibility and transparency. So he'll take care of, he or she will take care of the PA objectives and making it transparent. And the RTE facilitates the smooth execution of the program the program increment. Like the depiction out here is we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sprints. The 5th sprint being IP sprint, innovation and planning sprint. We'll come to that what it is. So it has got 5 iteration. Depending upon the context, it could be 6 or it could be 4, but generally it is not more than 8 to 12 weeks. That is what is the PA execution. The RT ensures the smooth execution of the program increment. The RT facilitates the system demo. The system demo is at the end of every iteration, all the teams need to come together and give an integrated demo that could, so let's assume the sprint starts on a Monday and ends on a Friday for ease of a 2-week sprint. So within the next 3 or 4 days, the systems team, I'll explain about the systems team later. The systems team will integrate and give a demo. So every iteration, there will be a system demo, an incremented and a wholly the completely integrated solution. An incremental of the solution is given at every at the end of every sprint. Maybe a lag of maybe a couple of days spilling over into the next sprint, but every sprint we need to have a system demo. The RT facilitates those system demo. Now let's look at the customer centricity part of it. The customers are the ultimate beneficiaries. So I read a beautiful quote: "The customer is the king; he can fire everyone." So that sums it all. So they are the ultimate beneficiaries of the value of the business solution that is created and maintained by these by the value stream, the development value stream. Customer centricity is fundamentally a mindset, and wherein all of us start looking at only one entity, which is known as a customer. To achieve this customer centricity, we need to have design thinking in place. So not getting into the details of design thinking. So the design thinking has 2 aspects of it: the problem space. There are 2 dimensions out here. So the one is the problem space and the other is a solution space. So you'll have to apply design thinking to achieve customer centricity. And in that process, we could have a MVP, or MVP is minimum viable product and a minimal marketable feature. So all of these emerges from the design thinking, which is on centered around customer centricity. Now, the RT is also responsible for improving the flow of value through the entire value stream. So, and there are practices, associated practices of DevOps and release on demand in this continuous delivery pipeline. When we say continuous delivery pipeline, it is not the tool aspect of it. It is not that, okay, we have a continuous CI tool. It could be Jenkins or Bamboo, and that is not, it is not the technical aspect of the continuous delivery pipeline. Continuous delivery pipeline here is a conceptual wherein the entire value stream is integrated in delivering value on a continuous basis. That is what, because the word pipeline, it might be a people might get confused. People who are from a technical background might look at a pipeline from a technical point of view. That is not what this means. So it is, there are three aspects to the continuous delivery pipeline. So one is on the continuous exploration. So here, continuous exploration focuses on creating alignment on what needs to be built. This is where design thinking gets applied. So the everyone part of the agile release train are always on a continuous exploration mode of figuring out what needs to build, what is the market expectation, applying design thinking concepts, so on and so forth. So there are various tools that we can use in continuous exploration. To name a few, it could be journey map, it could be personas, it could be so on and so forth. So those are the tools that are applied in the continuous exploration. Then we have the continuous integration. Here, the focus is on taking the features from the program backlog and implementing it. The continuous integration, the agile teams implement them. The completed work is committed in your version control. It is built and integrated into a full system, tested end to end. All the technical aspects happen over here. That's a continuous integration part of it. This is where the engineering aspects of XP play a big role. So if you have to have continuous integration, you have to have those good engineering practices in place. You need to have built-in quality in place. The next aspect of the continuous delivery pipeline is of continuous deployment. This takes care of wherein you deploy your changes in a staging environment, and we can. It is all about deployment. So deployment is different from releasing. Deployment is a technical aspect of it. So you deploy it in production. Maybe you have a feature toggle which is switched off. So your changes are already in production, but it is switched off. Or it could be really opened up to a certain set of geography or a certain selected set of users. So that is what is continuous deployment. Finally, we have the release on demand. The release on demand. It is the ability to make the value available to the customer all at once or in a staggered manner. So what we say here is you give the power of release to the business. You are done from the engineering aspect of it. The quality is inbuilt. The deployables, everything is already there in production. Now it is a flip of a button wherein you provide that power to the business owner. So that is what enables release on demand. In the previous pictures of SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework, you would have seen the release out here. The reason why these boxes are given here is you can deploy it, you can release on at wish, you can release on demand. That is a depiction out here of release on demand. Now, like the way we have retrospectives at the end of every sprint, you do have event known as inspect and adapt. Now, the release train engineer facilitates the inspect and adapt event. In the inspect and adapt is all about the retrospective at the program level, and we have a final integrated demo during this inspect and adapt event. So the RT facilitates this. Then you have something known as the innovation and planning sprint, IP sprint in short, or you can call it as an IP iteration. So this is a uniqueness of scaled agile framework, if you tie it back to the house of lean, innovation is one of the pillars. So this is where it the rubber meets the road type of a thing. So you have an innovation and planning sprint. So you have dedicated time for innovation and exploration, or working on some infrastructure things, or some tooling stuff, or there could be some cross training or skill development that the individuals would be having, and you do planning for the next sprint in this sprint, in this IP sprint. So for the next PI, you do the planning in this IP sprint. You have the inspect and adapt event in this sprint. So this is, and it is a sort of a buffer or a cushion for small leftover stuff to happen. And but it is not that we utilize it for the work that we did not know. That is not the intent. The intent is to utilize it for innovation work, learning, backlog refinement, and things like that. So that is what is the innovation sprint. And yes, of course, the final acceptance of the integrated demo can happen, or maybe the documentation, or some final performance testing that could not be done at the individual sprint level, individual iteration level. The final performance testing can happen here. So those are the activities that can happen in your IP iteration. Now let us see what all is part of the program increment from a content point of view. We all know what a story is. I don't want to get into more of a detail into it. The story is as a so and so. We all know the format as a so and so. I want so and so, so that I can get so and so. So it's always written from an end user point of view. A story should be should adhere to the invest criteria. It should be completed within a single sprint. So we know all that, what a story is all about. And you might have some features as well in the sprint, like the way a story is guided or is expected to complete within a sprint. A feature is expected to complete within a program increment within that quarterly release. And yes, this feature could be split into smaller stories, and this feature could be handled by multiple scrum teams, or it could be done by one scrum team. It is how it is all about how we plan our program increment. So API consists of the features as well. And as I was mentioning earlier, the solution architects and the system architects, this is the architectural runway. Now it consists of the existing code, the components, and the technical infrastructure that needs to be built to take care of the future sprints. The future PI. So you look at it this way: to execute the next PI, you need to probably have some infrastructure in place, some capabilities that need to be built up, or some design frameworks to be built, so that the features which are coming in the subsequent PI can be dealt with efficiently. You will have enablers to build them in this PI to enable the future development of this, enable the smooth execution of the subsequent PI. So you will have enablers in place. Now, once the PI is over, the end of the PI is the inspect and adapt event and the end of the IP sprint. The subsequent PI continues. So I think, Suresh, this is the question that you had. You have a PI which starts the first PI, then it ends after the quarterly whatever duration that we have. And of course, that also has to be cadence. It is not that this PI is for 3 months and the next PI is for 2 months. No, it doesn't work that way. The cadence should be applied there also. Anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks is a PI duration that the organization would define. Next, we have the built-in quality. We've covered it in a lot of detail in the third session itself as part of our core values. As I mentioned earlier, it consists of flow, architecture, code quality, system quality, release quality, and all of that. So that is what is the built-in quality. We have the concept of DevOps. So now DevOps is more of a, and someone who's not speaking, if you can go on mute, please. Thank you. So DevOps is a mindset. So it is all about how do we get the development, the people who are building it, and the operation who are maintaining it. So how do we bring in that? So there's a concept known as a clamor, culture, automation, lean flow, measurement, and recovery. You can read about it on the website. So we have the DevOps in place, and the buzzword now is DevSecOps. So the security is also part of the DevOps culture. So it is it is all about how do we avoid risk with respect to the security, rather than thinking of security as an afterthought. That has to be thought upfront. So DevSecOps is the end thing now. Now we have a systems team. As I mentioned earlier, you have the system team is nothing but a set of a specialized team which have a niche skill set. So it could be people who are integrating, who are having the skill sets of deployment, the configuration, the integration part of it. And they could be even testing the individual teams. Yes, test at their team level. We have testers in our individual team, but someone has to test the integrated product of all the teams. The system team will do. So this system team is probably a couple of days or maybe sometimes even a sprint behind the other teams. So in the previous session, one of them had asked, so like in the IP sprint, in the IP iteration, the system team is very busy. They are doing the integration of the final product. They're giving the demo, so on and so forth. So when does the system team do its innovation? They do it in the first sprint of the next PI, because there's nothing to integrate in the first sprint of the next PI. They have their innovation and the learning backlog and all the things that is supposed to be done as part of learning innovation. They do it in the first sprint of the next sprint. So that is what is the system team all about. They support the integration of the entire system. It could be at the individual sprint level, or it could be the final integration at the inspect and adapt prevent. Now, finally, to complete the picture, these are the two core values which are part of the essential safe, which is team and technical agility and the agile product delivery. Yes, we have covered it in great detail when we covered the 7 core competencies. So not getting into detail on these two competencies, which is the team and technical agility and agile product delivery. Now, this completes the complete picture. Now you map it to the picture we started with. This is what is Essential Safe all about. Questions?
Hi, Makender. This is Suresh again.
Yes, Suresh.
Thanks for the wonderful session. I could relate the work which I am currently working on. Thank you so much. I have only one question regarding the again a PI increment.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there are futures, right? Say for example, if there is an agile team, agile team A, so who are involved in the PI planning on start of each quarter. So during that planning, they would come up, right? This particular feature cannot be done within this quarter. So in such case, those features will be splitted into phase 1, and then the remaining features as a phase 2 will be going for the next PI agreement. Is it so, or how it is?
Very good question, Suresh. So if I can rephrase your question, the feature is so very huge that it can't be completed in one PI. What do we do about it? Did I understand your question right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So there are multiple ways to look at it, Suresh. So now let's assume the business owners have this particular feature is very critical for the organization. They have to complete it within this quarter in this PI. Now, what are the options that we have? So it is just not one Scrum team that is there. No, an art consists of anywhere between 10 to 5 to 10, 15 teams. Now, it is for the business owners and the product management to deprioritize something so that this particular feature can be accomplished by multiple teams working on it. That is one way of looking at it. So now let's assume that, okay, the feature is not so very important to complete it in one PI. Now, how can we split the feature so that we can give a meaningful integrated demo at the end of this PI, and the subsequent part of the feature can be taken up in the next PI. So it is all contextual, Suresh. So it all depends on the business criticality of this feature. How does the organization wants to handle it? That's what I would say. And there are
Okay,
various
thanks, Mahendra.
strategies of splitting a feature. So I have a separate session on that on my YouTube channel. You can look up on it. The various strategies that can be applied in splitting the stories and creating thin slices and things like that. But to answer to your question, it all depends on the business criticality of that particular feature. If it is really super critical, then they have. That is why the PI planning event happens, now. So now so if this particular feature is taken up by only team A, and the team says that we cannot deliver, and when the first draft review happens, they bring out that risk. So the planning adjustments happens in the subsequent day. So there's another plan review happens. So there's deprioritization that happens. The scope is descoped. There's something that is descoped. So all of that happens in that PA planning event, Suresh, in that
Yes,
2-day
yes.
event.
Okay, thank you so much, Mahendra.
Yeah,
Mahindra,
yeah. Your name, please.
Sri Nagesh Mahindra.
Yeah, Sri Nagesh.
If you look at the agile team and the ceremonies, what they do, please correct my understanding. The sequence of ceremonies in every new iteration, to begin with, first thing we do, product backlog refinement, and then iteration planning, daily stand-up, review, and retro. And if this is the proper sequence of any agile team for ceremonies, why in the safe framework portal, why they have not given this sequence? They always started with iteration planning only. They have not mentioned the product backlog grooming, the first ceremony, Mahindra. Any logic?
I'm not able to probably see. They might have not got into too much of details as to how do we execute a sprint, but nevertheless, so we have a Scrum guide in place, and technically speaking, product backlog, now it is known as product backlog refinement, because in some cultures grooming was considered as a not so good word. So it is known as product backlog refinement. And the Scrum guide says it doesn't call out sprint backlog refinement as an exclusive event. So there are only five events in the sprint. The sprint itself is an event. Then you have a planning. Then you have the daily stand-up. Then you have a review. Then you have a retro. In that sprint as an event, the team can decide how many refinement sessions do they need. So generally what happens is, when you start off the first sprint, before the first sprint, you need to do some prep work. So you need to do some refinement. But technically speaking, the first event is the planning event. And in that sprint, you can have the refinement session. You can have one, you can have two, depending upon what is your product backlog health, Sri Nagesh. So we have the Scrum guide there, which is defined in detail as to how the Scrum event should span off. Maybe that could be the reason why they have not gone into so much of detail here in the Scaled Agile portal.
Okay, so I agree. I think what you said is makes sense to me. So for any new iteration, you said sprint also is a ceremony. As part of it, they are doing refinement, then planning. Then if that a team is following, that sequence logically okay to you, right?
Yeah. It's logical. So and it's known as events. The right word is event. We don't call it as ceremonies. So what you have defined is right, Sri Nagesh.
Thanks. Thanks, Mahindra.
Hi, Mahindra. This is Sudhanshu.
Yeah, Sudhanshu.
Yeah. Hi. I think first time I'm speaking on this one. I have been attending last couple of webinars, and I would
Yeah.
like to appreciate you and Niladri, especially the emotional intelligence part, the way you guys conduct this session. So I'd love
Yeah.
it to attend here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So going that, I have some. Maybe I missed in the beginning of this session today, but I have some question on Kanban.
Go ahead.
So if you see the complete structure here, it is pretty much dominated by the cadence, right? And it is pretty much fit to the Scrum framework. But how like if I go to the Kanban principle, the continuous delivery, how it is they are fitting it here, and if it is they are fitting it here, then it's not a Kanban, it's a Scrum ban, right? So why they are calling Kanban here?
Yeah. So in fact, probably you missed that part. So wherein
maybe
I called it out very clearly. Kanban as a concept is iterationless. It is just
exactly
flows.
continuous flow.
But here you're not so this is a huge enterprise product. So wherein multiple teams need to work and deliver on the integrated solution. So some rhythm has to be set. So that is why, so that particular team might be working on a Kanban mode, but nevertheless, they have to fall into the rhythm of the entire train. So that is why it is known as a train. So you get onto the train at a particular point and you get down at a particular point. And having a rhythmic sequence sorts out so many other logistical issues. So you know when the sprint starts, you know when the integration happens, you know when the inspect and adapt event happening, when you know when the system demo is happening. So in fact, I always give this example. In nature, everything is rhythmic.
Yes.
So your heartbeat, your seasons, you think of anything, it's a rhythm. Full moon and a new moon, it's a rhythm.
Correct.
So your sunrise, sunset is a rhythm. Having a rhythm is a good thing to bring in that predictability into the system. So here, once again, it is not just one team which can deliver. You need a full battery of, when you have 150 people working together, it's always good to have a rhythm. So the Kanban, the team which is working on a Kanban mode, we are not restricting them. You work only on a Scrum ways of working. They have that liberty. But nevertheless, the only change here is you please fall into the rhythm in the interest of having a integrated solution at the end of every at a rhythmic interval, which is at the end of every iteration. That is what is the concept here, Sudhanshu.
Okay, thank you. Can I have one more question?
Yeah, good.
So if you see the beginning of the train, it's a continuous exploration, right? So when I'm bringing that to the like PI planning, like PI1, right? In PI1, we have multiple sprint, and because with the continuous exploration, there will be huge, like there will be changes, right? There will be change on maybe the PI objective might be changed, because see, if you are building a product, you are doing a continuous exploration, things will change. So how it is escalated to the next level program backlog, and how that alignment happen. There is a complete huge change in a middle of the PI, and how do they manage that kind of scenario? And they need new resource, they need new talent or something like that.
Yeah, you got multiple things into one question. So let's not bring in the resource and talent over here. So let's park that
We
for the
can
time
just
being.
focus on
So
the
the continuous exploration here is it is not a small product. So it is not that, okay, it is no, say if it was a small product, it is not so very complex. So say let's assume it's a banking solution, or it is or it could be you deployed in building trains or aircrafts. So there's a roadmap out there. So they have laid out a roadmap. The exploration part is on the upcoming PIs. So this exploration, what you're doing is not doing for this PI. The exploration that you're doing is for the upcoming roadmap, maybe a 6 month, next quarter, and things like that. That is point number one. Point number two is the PI objectives is sacrosanct, because based on this PI objectives, the business would have committed for, okay, 3 months down the line, we would have this feature in the market, and so on and so forth. So you can't invalidate the PI objectives just like that. So it is like you abandoning a sprint goal just like that. You can't do that. You have to have real solid reasons, and it is at scale. That is why this maturity is required. That is why the preparation is required for the PA planning. So that is what is the role of the RT is very important, because while this entire sprint, the entire PA is happening, the RT and the product management is busy working for the next PI.
Okay.
The product owners are not just working on the individual product, individual teams. They are working on the future features for the next PI. So there's a lot of prep work that happens in this current PI for the subsequent PIs. So invalidating a PA objectives is a very big thing. So it will not happen just like that. So, yeah. Neeladri, you want to add?
That's you added it perfectly, but also at the same time there are multiple questions. He was actually mixing it up. So you can answer one by one. First, you are talking about resourcing or alignment or cadence, Scrum and Kanban. I think you answer all of them, but any particular area, if you want to go into, we can more focus into that.
Yeah, I think the Kanban part is fine. Here, mostly the question was, I think it will be clear now. The continuous exploration, what it is right now, what I see, they do the exploration, but they come up with all this. They are planning on the next PI planning, right? The input they give to the train of that continuous exploration on the next PI planning. That is even clear for me. And that alignment, if you can give more light on that one, that's fine.
Oh, what alignment, if you can?
Like all this.
What about alignment?
I got a little confused.
Okay.
No issues.
So I'll let it go this one. Like you said about the pre-work, right? You have a pre-PI planning. There is a huge effort goes, right? So if I see the framework, they don't. If I see the first one, because what this is talking about the experience. One of my colleague projects, what happened? First time they went to PI planning and they came with empty-handed. Nothing happened.
So that is where the role of the RT is very important, Sudhanshu.
Exactly.
Because this is, of course, in when we talk about large solution, you have a specific element, pre-PI planning and post-PI planning. But nevertheless, here also, so it would always be beneficial to have a PI planning checklist. So before you get into a PI planning, it is always good to create a checklist. Is all of this done? So bare minimum thing is, have all the product owners, do they have their product backlog ready? Can they have, do the architecture team have a vision of how the architecture would evolve? Do the business owners have what is the PI objectives? What is the goal of this PI? And if the team asks any critical questions, are they ready to answer? There's so much of prep work that has to happen. So it's good to have a PI planning checklist. So if all of this is not met, don't cancel the PI planning itself. No? So there's no harm. So that is what is the fail fast, fail cheap. It is good to fail, rather than having all the 150 people in the room and then say we are not doing PA planning.
Exactly.
1 week before itself, we will tell we have failed. So probably we'll shift the PA planning for 2 weeks down the line. So be it.
I
So
agree.
you have failed. It's good. Failure is a good thing, and that gives us that sense of guilt. But we should not fail again. So the system will get corrected.
Yeah, that's
So
what happened.
so it's good to have a PA plan. The RTE has got a very big role to play in this.
Exactly. Thank you,
Thank
Mahendra.
Sure. Mahendra, can I ask one more question, please, Sri Nagesh?
Yes, Nagesh, go ahead.
So Mahendra, if there is a new team formed based on your experience, essential configuration, generally they might get complete hold on competencies, expertise. They may take 6 months, and then 6 months to 1 year, the large solution maybe about 1.5 year LPM. Do you think total for complete team, if they are growing, scaling for about 500 to 1,000 people, will it take around 2 years to complete, get hold on SAFe framework and all competencies, please?
This is a very subjective question, to be honest, Sri Nagesh. So it depends on the maturity of the it depends on the maturity of the organization. It could see. I put back the question. You have a 10-member Scrum team. When do you think they'll be completely independent? So it is subjective. Some Scrum teams achieve the level of maturity in 6 months. Some take around the 3 months itself. Likewise, it is at scale. So it is if the first PI is a failure, we should not be surprised. Like the first sprint of any Scrum team, if it's a failure, we are not surprised. Likewise, if the first PI of an art is, when I say failure, we are not at there, we should not be surprised. So the management and the leadership should have that appetite to absorb it. Otherwise, it becomes a disaster. So to answer to your question, there's no formula as such. So I can't say, okay, it will be done in 2 years or 3 years. There's no, that's what I would say. Niladri, you might want to add?
That's okay. Those are all subjectives. You cannot actually make it a formula.
Yes, thanks.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Anyone?
Otherwise, we are done.
I got one chat message. I'm not sure what is that. Let me check. Thank you, Mahendra Niladri. Okay. And let me finally check the YouTube channel as well. If we have any questions. No, we don't have any.
Okay, so if there's nothing else,
okay,
then
someone is
we are
asking
done.
when is the next session?
Yeah, Niladri, over to you.
Yeah, so the next sessions will be, we are planning to do on 5th of June, and the topic will be weighted sorted job first. Same time, and the registrations, I will open it by Monday. So you can, I think whoever already have registered, I'll send the meeting invite 1 day before the webinar. You will get it on your email. And whoever is watching this video, you can check your email. If you have not received any email, check your spam folder, because every time I'm sending this invite to all the participants, this time I think I sent it to 400 people. I'm not sure whether they have received it or not, but you can check your spam folder if it is going there or not. But definitely you will find the meeting invite in your inbox if you have given your email ID correctly.
What's the process to register? Where to give?
You can go into agiledigest.com, and over there is a link for Safe Learning Train. Under that, you have the registration link.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, then thanks everyone. Thanks for joining, and thank you so much for all such wonderful discussions. That is where we draw our energy from, and that is where our learning is also there. So it's a win-win thing.
All right,
Thanks.
great. Thank you. Thanks
Thanks a lot.
everyone. And we'll see you once
And-
again in our next webinar.
Thank you so
Fantastic.
much,
Thank you
and
so much.
stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks.
Meet
Thanks,
you
everyone.
next
Stay safe.
time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Yeah. Bye-bye.